Hello! Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this lovely 12th scale Georgian style chest of drawers, or tall chest. And for this project I've used Obeche wood, and that's spelled O-B-E-C-H-E. That's lovely fine grained craft wood, suitable for this sort of project. And I've used sheet wood and strip wood. And everything you'll need will be coming up in the cutting list, which is coming up next. And then for the legs I've used these pre-cut Queen Anne style legs, which you can actually order from my Etsy store, and I'll pop a link to the store below. And they come in packs of 4, so you'll have a couple left for another project. And again, the handles, I've used these brass drop handles, also available in my store, along with lots of other handles and ironmongery. You'll need a craft knife. This is a Swan Morton knife with a metal handle, and that takes a size 10A blade, and that will cut wood up to the thickness of 3mm. For the strip wood I used a mitre block and saw. Easier to cut strip wood with a saw than a knife. A steel rule for obviously measuring and for cutting the wood along with your craft knife. Gorilla wood glue or any sort of PVA. I use cocktail sticks to apply the glue and for removing excess glue from along the joints. And I just dispense a little bit of glue onto a piece of cereal packet card and apply it from there. It just makes it easier. I've used a quick drying wood stain or varnish, and I've used rosewood. Obviously any sort of dark varnish would suit this style of furniture, walnut or oak or something like that. A nice sharp pencil for accurate marking. And then for the back legs, because they're just sort of stuck on at the back there, I've used a pin to strengthen the leg. Whenever you're sort of sticking legs on to a piece of furniture like that, it's always best to use a pin to give it more strength. And for that I've just used dressmaking pins, a pair of pliers to snip the pins with, a drill to drill the holes into the leg and into the bottom of the chest, and that's got a 0.75mm or 1/32 of an inch drill bit in there. And then when drilling the legs you'll need something to clamp them onto your desk with, and I use this mini desk vise, which is a really handy piece of equipment to have. I always have that attached to my desk. A couple of grades of sandpaper. I use a 500 grade for fine sanding and a stronger grade, about 120 or 240, for shaping wood and sanding the edges of wood after it's been cut. And I think that's everything you're going to need. So the cutting list is coming up next, and then we'll get started. And I almost forgot, but you're also going to need clamps and masking tape, which are used to hold the pieces together whilst the glue is drying. Now I think that really is it, so here comes the cutting list. Okay, so we're going to begin by making pencil lines across the back and side pieces for the positioning of the shelves. And to save having to do that 3 times, I'm just going to join the pieces together using some little pieces of masking tape. So make sure you've got a nice straight line along the top there, and that side as well. Put a piece across the bottom as well, just to make sure they all stay in the right place, and then turn it around like that, and we're going to make pencil lines, and I'll give you the measurements in millimetres first. So 23 millimetres, 44.5 millimetres and 66 millimetres. So just do a little pencil line along that edge of that side piece there, and then repeat those measurements along the other side. And I'll give you those in inches as well, and that's 29/32 of an inch, and 1 3/4 inches, and 2 and 19/30 seconds. Pencil lines there as well. And then join those up, and when you're doing that, just place the ruler just slightly below the pencil lines, and that will allow for the thickness of your pencil nib. And just join those up like that. The final one. And then you can get rid of the masking tape, and we're ready to begin construction. Okay, so I've dispensed some glue here onto a piece of cereal packet card, and I'm using a cocktail stick to apply it with. And I just want to apply a line down this long outside edge of the back piece. And lay that on your worktop, and then attach the side piece. See, so the top and bottom of it is flush with the top and bottom of the back piece, and your pencil lines will join up. And press that into place, like that. And then you've got 5 pieces here of all the same size, and that's the top and bottom and the shelf pieces. So it doesn't matter which one you take, but take one of those and apply glue along one long and one short edge. And then push that piece into place so the top of it is flush with the top of these joined pieces, and so that the corner is right into that corner there. And bring your side piece up to meet it, which will square the whole thing off. So you want to have a nice flat edge here. Just use your finger to make sure it's nice and flush along there. Just gently manoeuvre it if not. And you've got time to do that before the glue sort of begins to take. Now with this is actually going to be our bottom piece now, as I want to attach the drawer stop, and it's easier to get it in there without another shelf in the way, so we're sort of working from the bottom up. So take the drawer stop piece, and I've just called it that because that's what it will be doing. It'll be stopping that bottom drawer, but it's actually to drill our back legs into. And it'll all sort of become clear as we go along. So apply glue to 2 adjacent sides of that piece. I'm just going to attach that along the sort of edge of that shelf so that it's right butted up against it, and press it in without moving the shelf if you can. And I always keep a sort of spare cocktail stick to use to remove excess glue from along the joins. And this will be inside the unit, so it won't be seen, but I just like to do it anyway, keep it all nice and neat. Okay, and then take your next piece, one of your shelf pieces, and again apply glue along one long edge and one short edge. This piece is glued into place so that it sits just above that pencil line. So it's sort of on the pencil line, but it'll be slightly above. And again, push it into that corner, and then just pull your side piece in to meet it if you need to. That will keep everything square. And just hold it for a few seconds while the glue begins to take. Press it into place, Again, I'm going to use the cleaner cocktail stick just to remove that excess glue. On the next piece, and again just above that pencil line. This is then giving us a draw depth of 20 millimetres, or just over 3/4 of an inch for each draw. And I have seen these units with sort of narrower draws at the top and getting wider as they go down, so if you wanted to do that you can. You just need to put your pencil lines in different places, measure that out. You can do fewer draws if you wanted a really wide draw at the bottom. It's all about sort of learning the basic techniques and then adapting the pattern to suit what you want. Next shelf piece. And then finally we're going to attach the bottom piece, again on the inside edge of those joined pieces, but so that it's flush with the bottom of the back and side piece. And this will of course actually become the top piece. Push it into the corner. Square everything up. And turn the piece around and apply glue to all of these exposed edges. And lay the piece back down onto your worktop and attach the side again so that the top and bottom of it is flush with the top and bottom of the unit. Just use your finger to check. And then have a peep inside and just make sure that the shelves are sitting just above those pencil lines again. And that will keep everything straight. Just gently squeeze that together, putting that top piece in there. And then I'm going to turn that onto its side, and I've got a couple of pieces of masking tape here. And I'm just going to put a piece over the back like that. Put it quite tightly, but try not to knock anything out of position as you do so. I'm going to put another piece over the front like that. Put in a bit too tightly there. Squeeze it all together. And then that can be left to dry. And then we'll move on to the next stage. And then take the chest top piece and we're going to bevel one long edge and both short edges. So with the sandpaper on your worktop, hold the piece at a 45-degree angle and then sweep it towards you, keeping it at that same angle. And you don't need to press too hard, and try not to apply too much pressure in one area. And just keep sweeping and checking until you've got a nice even bevel all the way along, like that. And then you can do the same along each edge. And keep going until you've got a nice bevel all the way around those three edges. like that. And then you want to do exactly the same thing with the chest top moulding, but because this wood is quite fragile, when you're doing these sides, just hold it or support it as low down as you can with your fingers like that. And then with the side edge, instead of going along like that, sweep it across the paper in that direction, just in one direction, otherwise you'll round the corners off. And it's so sort of thin anyway, you won't need to do that for long. And then you could finish that off holding it in your hand just with your fine grade sandpaper and just go along at an angle just to sort of neaten that up like that. And then we're going to glue these pieces together so that the beveled side of each piece is facing upwards. So apply glue to the back of the moulding, so to the flat edge of the moulding, and then lay that on top of the larger moulding so that the flat edge of each piece is at the back and is flush, and so that your moulding sits on the inside of the chest top bevel. I'll just pick that up and show you that. So it's sort of creating this double beveled edge. So the back should be nice and flush along there. And when glue is drying, wood tends to curl upwards, and this is trying to do that already. So you'll need to hold it into place with clamps. And just as you clamp, just make sure that back edge is staying flush like that. Put one on each corner. And these clamps are really good because they're nice and tight and they really do hold it together well. I'm going to put a couple along that front edge, and it's really important that you secure wood like this because otherwise you'll sort of always have that gap between the two pieces. I've just got a few more clamps here. You can never put enough clamps on when you're sort of holding pieces together like this. I'll put another couple along that back edge. And I'll see if I've just got one more that I can pop in the middle there. Now I didn't apply too much glue to the moulding, so there isn't any sort of seeping out around that edge, but if there was, make sure you use your spare cocktail stick just to remove it. And that's especially important when you're varnishing a piece, because varnish doesn't take over glue residue, so you'll need to make sure that that's all gone, but you can sand it away after it's dried. So this piece can now be left to dry. Now you can see we get that lovely sort of double bevel on there, and that adds a really nice detail to pieces of furniture like this. So we're going to attach this to the top, and remember the top is the edge that hasn't got this bar in, so that's at the bottom. So apply glue to the top of the chest. Make sure you get that right to the edges. And then you want to attach the top, so obviously the beveled side is downwards and attached to the top. The back will be flush with the back of the chest, and then you'll have an even overhang at either side so that you can see that bevel of the piece underneath. So you just manoeuvre it slightly before the glue begins to take until you're happy that it's in the right position. There, and then you'll see that lovely sort of bevel just at the front and the edges there overhanging. Remember again to remove the excess glue. A couple of little bobbles there. And then I'm going to secure this with masking tape and clamps. I'll put a piece across the back like that. Pull it nice and tightly. Another piece across the front. I'm just going to turn that around and pull a couple of pieces over that back, just to make sure we don't get any gap in there. And then all along the front, again I'm going to use the clamps. And again, I'll say it's important to clamp things together so that you don't get that gap in. So fit on as many as you can. I'm going to put another couple in the gaps there. And then we'll get a lovely nice flush finish. Okay, once again that can be left until the glue has completely dried. So once you've allowed enough time for the glue to completely dry, remove your masking tape and then sand the top using your fine grade sandpaper just to remove any pulls that the tape may have left, and go along those joins as well just to make sure there's no glue residue there. And then turn the piece upside down, and we're now going to make a hole for the back leg. Now when you're attaching a leg and it's not actually part of the structure of the unit, it's always best to put a pin in just to give it a bit of extra strength, and that's what we're going to do here. So we want to make a hole 1.5 millimetres or 1/16 of an inch from each of these back corners. Now as our wood is 1.5 millimetres, 1/16 of an inch, we want to make the hole, let me see if I can just point there with a cocktail stick, right in the corner where those two pieces of wood join. So we've already got our measurement there for us, so we're going to drill the hole right in there. So have the piece on your desk, and you want to make sure that you drill straight down, so make sure that your drill is completely upright. And I'm using here a 0.75 millimetre drill bit, that's 1/32 of an inch, or basically just your smallest drill bit. And then just slowly drill down. And we're drilling into that strip that we put in the bottom there. Bring that out again. And then do the same at the opposite side. Okay, so we also need to make a hole in the end of each of those back legs and directly in the centre of the piece. So you'll need to secure it into a vise, and these little mini desk vices are really handy. They just clip onto your edge of your desk, and I always have this one here like that. Tighten it up, and then when you're using softwood, it's always a good idea just to tuck a bit of tissue paper or kitchen towel into the vise just so that it doesn't dent the wood. So put the leg in there and tighten it in. And again, using that smallest drill bit, we're going to drill the hole in the centre of the wood. Measure it if you need to, but I'm going to do mine by eye. And again, you want the drill to be completely upright, otherwise it will sort of split through the leg. Like that. So do that in each of the back leg pieces. Okay, so now insert just a normal dressmaking pin into the hole. Push it in as far as it will go, and then, oops, use your pliers to trim that probably to about, I don't know, quarter of an inch, so 6 millimetres. Doesn't have to be precise. And then just check that that fits into your hole in the corner there. That. And then we're still going to apply glue, even though we're using the pin, and this will just make it extra secure. So apply a little bit of glue around the bottom of the leg. Probably got a little bit too much there. That. And then push that into place. And then do the same on the opposite side. Remember to remove the excess glue from around the edge. Just making sure that I've removed all of that glue from around the edges there, and I will sand as well. And now we're going to attach the front legs, and these you want to attach so that the sort of ball foot is facing outwards, and this line of the leg will be in line with the corner of your unit. So apply glue to the square flat end. And then make sure that the sides are sort of level with the sides of your unit, or the front and the side rather. Press that into place. And again, I'm just going to remove that excess glue. Just going to twist that round a little bit, and you've got time to do that before the glue completely dries, so always be checking that everything's where you want it to be. And then attach the remaining leg. And these legs are really handy, not just for furniture but for chairs as well, and stools. I've done another project using these, which is a dressing table. Press that into place. And then that can be left to dry. Then we'll make the drawers. Okay, so in the cutting list I advise you to cut the pieces needed for the drawers after construction of the main unit, and I always say that, and the reason is just that you'll get a more accurate fit. Misplacement of any of these shelf pieces will affect the size of the drawer opening, so it's always best to construct first, remeasure, and then cut the pieces you need. So I have given you the measurements in the cutting list, but that's just as a guide, so always remeasure the opening, height, width and depth, and then I always just deduct 1/2 millimetre off each of those measurements, and that will just ensure that the drawer will slide in and out more easily. So once you have cut your pieces, begin by applying glue along each edge of the drawer base. And then put that on your worktop and just attach the side pieces so that the front and back of each piece are flush with the front and back of the base. And then just pop that to one side to dry, and I'm sliding it along the worktop rather than picking it up, otherwise it'll probably just fall apart. I've got one here that I did a moment ago. That's sort of dry enough to handle. So then apply glue along those front and back edges. Attach those pieces as well, and bring your side pieces in to sort of meet the edges so you've got nice flush joins at each side. Square everything up. Just gently squeeze that all together. Just tuck that edge in a bit more. And once again, that can be popped to one side to dry. And I've got one here that is completely dry, and then I've gone around each edge and the top and bottom and sanded. And I'm not doing it here because it makes such an awful sound, but just go around in small circular motions on the top and bottom, and then on each side just go along in one direction, which will mean that the sides won't round off. I want to keep it nice and square, so just go along the sandpaper in one direction like that. And there's the drawer. And then it's probably best to sand your drawer first before you cut your moulding. Again, just down to the sort of sizing, and then you can leave a border of a couple of millimetres around each edge. And then we're going to bevel each edge of the moulding. And again, use your finer grade sandpaper, and like we did with the chest top moulding, support the piece as low down as you can on those ends, and then when you do the side, go across the paper rather than sort of sweeping it towards you. It's just because with this wood that's less than 1 millimetre thick, it's more like a veneer, it will probably just split if you do it like that. So just be gentle with it and go across like that. And then when you've beveled each edge, you can finish that off with a small piece of your fine grade sandpaper, just to really tidy it up. I've already done this piece. And then apply glue to the back flat edge. Like that. And then just lay it on so that there's an even border around each edge. And you can just do that by eye. Just get it as exact as you can. And you've got a little bit of time to manoeuvre it around before the glue completely dries. A bit of glue on the front there, but just make sure you get rid of the glue from around the edges as well. And again, so that the wood doesn't curl upwards as the glue dries, I'm going to secure this to the front of the drawer. I'm going to use clamps and masking tape. That might seem a bit overkill, but because these clamps haven't got a sort of large surface area, I need to get to the bottom as well. So I'm going to use a bit of masking tape as well, and just put that right over the front, concentrating on this bottom edge. And pull that down quite tightly. And you can tuck the top bit inside the drawer, that bit as well. Press that down, and then I'm going to use the clamps along this top edge, one at each end, and then I can get a couple in the middle there, like that, and leave that again to dry. And then I've got a drawer here that I finished So putting that sort of moulding on the front just gives it a nice detail. So complete all of your drawers and then we'll be ready to varnish. Okay, so all of the drawers are now done and the piece is ready for varnish. So I've just gone over the whole thing again and given it another sand with the fine grade sandpaper, paying particular attention along the sort of joins where there may be any glue residue. Now I'm going to apply the first coat of varnish. I really love this rosewood varnish, but one coat of it can tend to look a bit orangey, a bit washed out, so this will definitely need 2 coats and possibly 3 depending on how it looks after the second coat has dried. Now this is a quick drying varnish, but I'm probably going to leave this overnight and come back to it tomorrow and then sand and do the second coat, and then I'll show you how it looks just after the one coat. Okay, so that's the first coat of varnish done, and I left that to dry overnight, and as you can see it's a bit orangey, a bit of a sort of wishy-washy colour, so I'm definitely going to do a second coat and probably a third, like I say. So I'm going to sand the whole of the unit. With the drawers I'm going to sand them, but I'm only going to do a second coat of varnish on the fronts. Try not to apply too many coats to the actual drawer, as it won't fit back into the opening and you'll have to sand all the varnish away anyway. So I'm just going to do the second and possibly third coat on the front of each drawer. Okay, so that has now had 3 coats of varnish, and I didn't sand after the second coat, I just applied the third coat once the second coat had completely dried, and that's now got that lovely rich deep colour, which is what I wanted. So all we need to do now is fit the handles and then we're finished. Okay, so for handles I'm using these lovely sort of brass drop handles, and these are available for sale in my Etsy store. There's a pack of 12, so you'll have a few left over for another project. So take the drawer, and I'm going to place them 10mm or 3/8 of an inch from each side of the drawer, and to do that I've made like a little measuring device. So this piece of wood is 10mm wide, so place it right at the edge of the drawer and then you'll know where to put the edge of the handle. You'll probably need tweezers to hold the handle with, so you can hold it with the actual pull there, and these can be applied just using your normal wood glue or PVA. So just put a little bit on the back and spread it out. Make sure your piece of wood is right up against the edge of the drawer, and then put the handle into place like that, so to the side of the wood. And then I'm just measuring by eye from top to bottom, but if you're not very good at measuring by eye, just bring your ruler in and then you can measure to make sure you've got the same amount at the top and the bottom of the handle. And you've probably got a few seconds to adjust it before the glue begins to take, and then you can press that into place, pressing on the inside of the drawer as well. And then do the same thing again on the other side. And always have a spare cocktail stick handy just to remove any glue which might seep out from around the edge. And there is the completed unit. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I think this is a really lovely piece if you're furnishing a sort of more traditional style doll's house. If you enjoy building your own doll's house furniture, please have a look at my books. I've published 3 of them so far. They're all available to purchase from Amazon, and I'll pop a couple of links below. And please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, as I've got lots more tutorials coming up. And for now, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.